we have a crisis in the world, tremendous crisis, and also crisis in our consciousness, in us. I see the urgency of change, radical revolution, mutation in the mind. I see it. It is necessary. There is complete quietness of the mind, and that which is silent has vast space. Only then that which is nameless comes into being.
This is Urgency of Change, the Krishnamurti podcast. Memory is necessary at a certain level, but when memory becomes merely mechanical action in relationships, it becomes a danger and creates mischief. Hello and welcome to episode 242 of Urgency of Change. Each episode of the Krishnamurti podcast features carefully selected clips from Krishnamurti's talks. Their aim is to represent different aspects of Krishnamurti's radical approach to many of the issues and questions we all face in our lives. This week's theme is memory. Upcoming themes are care, not knowing, and the self. This is a podcast from Krishnamurti Foundation Trust, based at Brockwood Park in the UK, which is also home to the Krishnamurti Retreat Centre. Situated in the beautiful countryside of the South Downs National Park, the Krishnamurti Centre offers retreats individually and in groups. The focus is on inquiry in light of Krishnamurti's teachings. Please visit krishnamurticentre.org.uk for more information. You can also find our regular quotes and videos on Instagram, TikTok and Facebook at Krishnamurti Foundation Trust. If you enjoy the podcast, please leave a review or rating on your podcast app, which helps our visibility. This week's episode on memory has 5 sections. This first extract is from Krishnamurti's second talk in New Delhi 1966 and is titled, What is the Function of Memory?
What is the function of memory? And how does memory come into being? Before we can discuss what is the function of memory, one must find out how memory is built up. Right? Have you ever noticed that when you respond to something entirely, totally, there's very little memory, right? Have you? Oh Lord. Huh? When you respond with your heart, with your mind, with all your being, there is very little memory of it. Haven't you noticed it? It is only when you don't respond to a challenge completely, then there is a conflict. Then there is a pain, then there is a confusion, then there is a struggle. The struggle, the confusion, the pain or the pleasure builds memory. This is simple, so you can observe it in your daily life. Now, you develop memory through technology. You go to college, learn a certain technique, because that technique gives you a job and that cultivates a memory. Because that memory is necessary to function efficiently in a particular job. That memory you must have, obviously. Otherwise you can't function, right? But we have psychological memories. What you have said to me, how you have hurt me, you have flattered me, you have insulted me. You have psychological memories. The images which I have built up about you and you have built about me, those memories remain. And those memories are added to all the time. And it is those memories that respond. Therefore, thought, which is the response, which is the result of memory, thought is always old, never new, right? Therefore, never free. There is no such thing as freedom of thought, which is sheer nonsense. So memory has a place when we are functioning efficiently, and efficiency is necessary and memory is necessary at a certain level, and when memory becomes a mere mechanical action with regard to relationship, in human relationship, then it becomes a danger. Then it creates mischief. And from that memory, all the tribal instincts are part of that memory. You are a Hindu, you are a Muslim, you are a Christian, you are a Catholic. You have learned this, the machinery of conditioning. There it is deadly. Because life is a movement. Life is not something that you carve out for yourself in a little backyard. Life is a total movement, endless movement. Not an evolutionary movement. That's one of our pet theories too. Eventually man is going to become perfect. In the meantime he can sow hatred. In the meantime he can create havoc. So memory has a place, and when you function there, naturally it has to be efficient, reason, impersonal, clear, all the rest of it. But there is a state of mind where memory has very little place. Though we are talking now, we are using the language of English language. The usage of English language is memory, obviously. But the state of mind that is using it is silent, is not crippled by memory. And that is real freedom.
The second extract is from the 14th talk in Ojai 1949 and is titled, We Live on Memories.
Let's consider memory. Why do we live in memory? Are memories separate from us? Are you different from memory? What do we mean by memory? The residue of certain incidents, experiences, sensations, are they not? You have had an experience yesterday. It has left certain marks, certain sensations. That sensation we call memory, verbalized or not. The sum total of all these memories, residues, we are. Surely. You are not different from your memories. Conscious memories as well as the unconscious. The conscious memories that respond easily, spontaneously, and the unconscious memories that are very deep, hidden, quiet, waiting, watchful. The whole of that, surely, is you and I. The racial, the group, the particular, all that, all those memories are you and me. You are not different from the memory. Remove your memories, where are you? If you do, you'll end up in an asylum. But why does the mind, which is the result of memories of the past, why does the mind cling to the past? That is the question, is it not? Why does the mind, which is the result of the past, thought which is the outcome of yesterday, of many yesterdays, why does the thinker cling to that yesterday? Memories without any emotional content have their significance. But the moment we give to them emotional content, as like and dislike, this I will keep, that I won't keep, this I will think about, and this I will go back and ponder in my old age, or consider in my future. Why do we do that? Surely that is the problem, is it not? Not that we must forget factual or psychological memories. Because all the impressions, all the responses, everything is there unconsciously. Every incident, every thought, every sensation which we have lived through is there. Hidden, covered up, but still there. And as we grow older, we return to those memories, to live in the past or in the future. The pleasant times we had when we were youthful. Now all the future, what we are going to be according to our condition. So we live in these memories. Why? As though you were different from those memories. Surely that is the problem, is it not? We mean by memories words, don't we? Images, symbols, which are merely a series of sensations. And on those sensations we live. Therefore we separate ourselves from the sensations and say, I want those sensations. Which means the I, having separated itself from memories, gives to itself permanency. But it is not permanent. It is a fictitious permanency. And hence, the I, the me, is different from memory. Now, when this whole process of the I separating itself from memory and living and giving life to that memory in response to the present, that total process hinders, obviously, the meeting the present. Surely does it not? If I would understand something, actually, not theoretically, verbally, abstractly, I must give my full attention to it. I cannot give my full attention to it if I am distracted by my memory, or by my beliefs, by my opinions, experiences of yesterday. Therefore, I must respond fully, adequately to the challenge. And the I, which has separated itself from memory, giving itself to permanency, that I regard the present, looks at the incident, the experience, and draws from it according to its conditioning of the past, which is all very simple and obvious if you examine it. It is the memory of yesterday, of possessions, of jealousies, of anger, of contradictions, of ambition, of what one ought to be and should be. It is all these things that make up the I. And the I is not different from memory. The quality cannot be separated from the thing, from the self. So memory is the self. Memory is the word which symbolizes sensation, physical as well as psychological sensation. And it is to that we cling. It is to the sensations we cling, not to the experience. Because in the moment of experience, there is neither the experiencer nor the experienced. There is only the experiencing. When we are not experiencing, then we cling to memory. Like so many people do. Especially as one grows older. Watch yourself and you will see. We live in the past or in the future. And use the present as merely a passage from the past to the future. Therefore the present has no significance. Which all the politicians indulge in. All the ideologists and the idealists. Always the future or those who live in the past. So if one understands this whole significance of memory, not that one must put it away or destroy them or be free from them, but how the mind is attached to memory. And thereby strengthen the me. The me is after all sensation. A bundle of sensations, a bundle of memory. It is the known. And from the known, we want to understand the unknown. And the known must be an impediment to the unknown. Because if one would understand reality, there must be a newness of the mind, expression, not the burden of the known. God or reality, or what you will, cannot be imagined, cannot be described, cannot be put into words. And if you do, that which you put into words is not reality. It's merely the sensation of a memory, the reaction to a condition. And therefore it's not real. Therefore, if one would understand that which is eternal, timeless, the memories as the mind must come to an end. Mind must no longer cling to the known. Therefore it must be capable of receiving the unknown. You cannot receive the unknown if the mind is burdened with memories, with the known, with the past. Therefore, the mind must be entirely silent, which is very difficult. Because the mind is always projecting, always wandering, always creating, breeding, self-projecting. And it is this process that must be understood in relationship to memory. And then the distinction between psychological and factual is quite obvious and simple. So in understanding memory, one understands the process of thinking, which is after all self-knowledge. To go beyond self, beyond the limits of the mind, there must be freedom from the desire to be, to achieve, to gain.
The third extract is from Krishnamurti's third talk at Brockwood Park in 1983 and is titled, Does Memory Cause Suffering?
One suffers. My son is dead, gone. But the memory of it remains. The memory of his companionship, of my affection, love for him, and so on. Memory remains, right? And is that memory sorrow? Please inquire together. I have lost my wife, or I am not as clever as you are. I am not as alert, sensitive as you are. And I suffer through that. Or I suffer in 10 different ways. And is suffering the shedding of tears? Is that the loss, the actual loss, or the loss that brings about various memories, remembrances? You follow all this? Is that one, or perhaps the major cause of war, of suffering? Man, including woman, man, from the beginning of man, he has had wars, killed people, right? That has been our pattern of existence, war after war, killing thousands of people. Humanity has suffered, and we are still pursuing that path of war that has brought about tremendous sorrow for mankind, right? And we have our own personal sorrow. Sorrow is the same whether it is yours or mine. we like to identify ourselves with my sorrow, and you like to identify yourself with your sorrow. But sorrow of yours and sorrow of mine is the same. The objects of sorrow may vary, but sorrow is sorrow. Therefore, it is not personal. I wonder if you realize this. Right? No, this is very difficult for one to see the truth of this. If you suffer and I suffer, you suffer because for one reason, and I suffer for another, and we identify ourselves with my particular one, and we then divide ourselves and then find ways and means to suppress it, and so on. But if we realize sorrow is sorrow of all mankind, all humanity, and we are the rest of humanity, because we have fear, sorrow, pleasure, anxiety, like the rest of mankind. If we realize sorrow is not my sorrow, that becomes such a small affair. But we are the whole of mankind. We are the rest of mankind. And when there is suffering, suffering is man suffering. Then you have a totally different approach to the problem. You understand? Not my suffering and please God help me how to get over it, how to understand it, I pray, it's all becomes so personal, shoddy little affair. Right? But when it is the rest of mankind that has suffered, then suffering becomes an extraordinary thing that one has to look at very carefully. And if one human being understands the nature of suffering and goes beyond it, he then helps the rest of mankind. Right? Now, is suffering a remembrance? The mother or the father whose son has been killed in your particular little war, recent war, Falkland, killed there, and the mother and the father remember all the things that he did. The death, the birth, the pictures, the photographs, all the incidents and accidents and laughter, tears, scolding. You follow? So we're asking, please find out for yourselves whether sorrow is part of this continuity of memory. And if it is memory, don't reduce memory just few words. It's a tremendous content. And if it is memory, then can that memory not only of my particular son, but the memory of mankind's sorrow, memory which is sorrow, can that memory come to an end? You understand? Therefore, one has to inquire not into a particular memory, but the whole movement of memory, right? Gosh, time goes. We live on memories. We are memories. We are the word, the reaction to that word, the pleasure derived from the word, the remembrance of all the things that word, that symbol, that incident, accident has awakened, has stored up in the brain, which is awakened when an incident takes place, right? And memory is the past, right? So we are the past. Can this whole movement of the past, which is time, which is thought, end? Not thought in our daily life. We're not talking of that. We're not talking when thought is used to drive a car, to write a letter, to write a poem, write this or that. There, thought, knowledge is absolutely necessary. We are talking of this whole psychological movement which is based on memory. So we're asking much deeper question, which is the self, can the self, the me, the ego, all this self-centered activity, which is the movement of memory, can that self end? Not by discipline, by control, by suppression, or identification with something greater, which is still another movement of the self. Can that self end? You might ask then, how can, if the self ends, what place is there for me in society? What shall I do? Right? Right, sir? First end it and then find out. Not the other way around. This is a very, very serious question. Nobody can tell you in the world or beyond the world. Perhaps most of us try to get instructions beyond the world. Nobody on earth can tell you how to end it. But if one observes all these facts without any reactions, I observe the fact that I am hurt psychologically. because my daughter, my son, my father, whatever, has done something which hurts me. If I can observe that hurt without a single resistance, without any action that I should not be hurt or keep the hurt, most people do. All through their life they carry their hurt. But to observe this hurt, psychological wound, without any reaction to it, then one sees that hurts disappear altogether. Right? So, in the same way, just to observe memory as it arises. See the nature of it, the evolution of it, the whole nature of activity of our daily life is based on this. And memory is very, very limited. Thought may invent the infinite, but thought being itself limited, its infinity is also limited, finite, but may pretend there is infinite. So, all this implies complete freedom. Right? Not only freedom from something, but the quality of freedom that is not based on any reaction, any reward or punishment.
The fourth extract is from the second talk in Amsterdam 1981 and is titled, "We are nothing but memory."
Our life, daily life, is a process of remembrances. Our brain, mind, is entirely put together, entirely memory. Right? Are we together in this? It's a rather difficulty that I'm not sure that we are understanding each other. I don't know how much English you know, and that's not an insulting statement. Whether we understand English completely, what the speaker is saying, or you're partially listening, partially understanding English, and so attention wandering off, and so one looks rather dazed from here. The language that the speaker is using is very ordinary, non-specialized language. It's simple English. So I hope we understand each other. We are saying we, our ego, our personality, our whole structure is entirely put together as memory. We are memory. Right? Please, this is subject to investigation. Don't accept it. Observe it. Listen. The speaker is saying the you, the ego, the me is altogether memory. There is no spot or space in which there is clarity. Or you can believe, hope, have faith that there is something in you which is uncontaminated, which is God, which is a spark of that which is timeless. You can believe all that. But that belief is merely illusory. All beliefs are. But the fact is that our whole existence, we are entirely memory, remembrance. There is no spot or space or inwardly which is not memory. You can investigate this if you have time. Perhaps not this morning because we have a lot to cover. But if you are inquiring seriously into yourself, you will see that the me, the ego, is all memory, remembrances. And that's our life. We function, live from memory. And for us, death is the ending of that memory. Right? Am I speaking to myself or we're all together in me? See, the speaker is used to talking in the open, under trees, or in a vast tent, without these glaring lights. And one can then have an intimate communication with each other. As a matter of fact, there are only you and me talking together. Not all this enormous audience in a vast hall, but you and I sitting on the banks of a river on a bench, talking over this thing together. And one is saying to the other, we are nothing but memory. And it is to that memory that we are attached. My house, my property, my experience, my relationship, the office I go to, the factory, the skill I've been able to gather during a certain period of time. I'm all that. And to that, thought is attached. That's what we call living. And this attachment, with all its problems, Because when you are attached, there is fear of losing. We are attached because we are lonely. Deep, abiding loneliness, which is suffocating, isolating, depressing. And the more we are attached to another, which is again memory, the other is a memory. My wife, my husband, my children are physically different from me. Psychologically, the memory of my wife, I'm attached to that, to the name, to the form. My existence is attachment to that memory which I have gathered through all my life. Where there is attachment, I recognize, observe, there is corruption. When I am attached to a belief, hoping in that attachment to that belief there will be certain security, both psychologically as well as physically, that attachment not only prevents further examination, but I am frightened to examine even when I am greatly attached to something, to a person, to an idea, to an experience. So corruption exists where there is an attachment. And one's whole life is a movement within the field of the known. This is obvious. And death means the ending of the known. Right? Ending of the physical organism, ending all the memory of which I am. I am nothing but memory. Memory being the known. And I'm frightened to let all that go, which means death. I think that's fairly clear, at least verbally. That is, intellectually, you can accept that. Logically, sanely, that's a fact.
The final extract is from Krishnamurti's second talk in Ojai 1984 and is titled, Motive is Born of Memory.
We live in a very disordered world, chaotic, contradictory, cruel world. And this has been the result of long 40,000 years of evolution. And we have come to this chaotic state. And in observing that, what is order? Is there any order at all? Or must man, human beings, live perpetually in disorder, not only externally, but also inwardly? disorder, which seems to be our lot. To think clearly, objectively, seems almost impossible. Because each one of us wants his own particular way, his own fulfillment, his own ambition, and so on. So, what is order, and what is the relationship of that to discipline? The word discipline etymologically means a disciple who learns. It comes from the word disciple. A disciple is one who is learning, not conforming, not repeating, not repeating slogans, but constantly learning. So what do we mean by learning? When you go to school, college, university, you learn from books, from the professors, from the teachers, and memorize. That memory is necessary up to a certain point to have a vocation, a job. Either one uses that memory skillfully or sloppily. So, learning, so far as we understand it generally, is to memorize. You read a book about mathematics or computers, what you like, what you will, and memorize from that act. So it becomes mechanical. So is there a learning? Please inquire with the speaker. He's asking the friend who is walking along, taking the journey together. He's asking him what he's actually learning. Is it merely memory operating, accumulation of great deal of information, knowledge about various subjects which have their own discipline, their own way, and gradually the brain follows certain categories, certain grooves, and so those grooves and categories and specializations become a means of accumulating knowledge, memory, and operating from that memory. This is what we call learning. But learning is also implies a constant movement, a brain that is not only burdened with knowledge of mathematics, geography, history, or computer, and so on, but also the brain must be active, inquiring, questioning, doubting. And through this process, there is a never I'm finding the right word. There is never static state. Knowledge becomes static when you have accumulated a great deal. It becomes repetitive, static. But learning is a movement. And therefore it's never static. It's living. This, one must understand this very carefully, because each one of us, the self, the me, the persona, what you will call, what you like, whatever name you give to this psyche, is a bundle of memories. We may think we are great spiritual entities, gods, or all the rest of that business, but it's still memory. We are a bundle of memories. And to that memory we are adding all the time. But the essence of it is static. But whereas learning, not merely accumulating knowledge, but moving further away from knowledge, constantly, is the act of learning. That learning brings its own discipline, which is to order. Therefore, order is a living thing, not conformity, pattern, following a pattern. Which doesn't mean that you change from day to day to day. That's what you're all doing, going after various fads. But learning implies tremendous observation. Observation without motive. The moment you have motive, that motive is static. Because that motive is born out of memory. I hope my friend is following all this. If not, he says, I don't understand what the devil you're talking about. We all live by motives. Sexual motive, motives of pleasure, motives of wanting, gratifying, achieving illumination, all that, enlightenment, all that. We live by motive. And you are saying something either true or utterly nonsense. Where the word motive, the root meaning of that word is to move. To move not in a particular direction, not self-centered, egotistic desire. This becomes difficult. Because a motive implies, as we said, motive is born out of memory. Right? Because I want something which I'm missing. Right? That's one form of motive. I want to achieve fame, appear in the beastly papers, well known, power, position. Well, everybody says what a marvelous bird you are. There's a motive, which is a projection of our own memory and desire. Therefore, that memory is limited and therefore static. Right? Have you understood, my friend? He said, go on, I'm catching what you're talking about. But is this possible, he asks, to live and to live so that there is constantly learning till you reach a point when there is no learning at all? Because what is there to learn except mathematics, engineering, science, and so on, technological learning? Apart from all that, what is there to learn? Please, this is, you understand? Go slowly, my friend. She says to me, to the speaker, go slow. My brain doesn't work as rapidly as yourself. That's a form of flattery which the speaker is not falling to. So he says, explain a little more, because we are talking about order. This order can only be understood and lived, not merely intellectually understood, but lived in daily life. That order comes only when the static movement of the self as memory, with its motive, is no longer operating. Because the self is a bundle of memories. I'm telling the friend, if you watch yourself, you see you are a bundle of memories. And those memories to those memories can be added a great deal, but it's still memory. And therefore it's limited. Therefore it's static. Anything that is static must create conflict with things that are moving. So, find out, where a speaker is telling the friend, find out if you can live without a motive and yet learn all the time. Till you come to a point when there is nothing to learn anymore. We'll go into that presently. So that there is complete order. Order for most of us means conformity, repetition. Adjustment. Always from a center, adjusting. So order is a living thing, not a blueprint. And that order brings an extraordinary sense of stability. It gives great strength from which, as the earth, from which trees, everything grows. This sense of great stability stability, strength, from which every other thing can flow.